procedures for this. So the first procedure will be that the accounting officer, so the D part, procedures in the ministry. So the procedure number one is that he is expected to report to the head of unit, or hello, hello.
We
We
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you. We can hear you.
They expected to report to the head of unit. Number two, report to the head of unit. Number two, and the head of unit can otherwise be referred to as the head of department, right? So is that he should report to the police, in the case of fraud or theft. Number three thing is expected to do is to ensure that the accounting entries are passed for the loss. And number four would be that he should disclose the weaknesses in the internal control system and take precautionary measures. Any question, please? So the E part is saying we should disclose or explain the related offenses that two of the statutory bodies can deal with in this case. The first one is falsification of documents and records. And in this question, the records are the bill of water and the vouchers. Number two is duplication of vouchers. And number three, will be what? Cash shortage. So those are the basic offenses that were in this question and should be dealt with accordingly. Are we still together?
With you.
We are. We are.
Now we are switching a little bit from bank constitution statement to loss of fund. How do we then deal with loss of fund, right? So let's quickly look at question 3, which is moving a little bit from the constitution statement to dealing with loss of fund. Can anybody please read? Anybody please read? Hello? Hello?
Oh,
Please read what you have on your screen now. I beg.
the what we have on the screen is not showing. Like the font is very small.
Okay, how about now? Okay, you know what? Let me do this way to make life easy for all of us. So please read now. This is the next question I want to deal with. 9:44. All right. Can you help us? Hello? Hmm. Hello? Ah,
Sir,
please read the question now. Are you tired of the class? Maybe we should call it a night.
fraud. Fraud is described as
Okay, let me read it myself.
an
Fraud is described.
unjust or illegal advantage. It involves it involves the presentation of a sorry me I cannot really see it. That's why.
Okay,
It involves the
okay, let me read it
presentation of
myself. Thank you. Let me just read it
okay.
myself. Fraud is described as an intentional act involving deception to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage. It involves the presentation of a statement or presentation made recklessly or without the belief in the truth or suppression of fact. The EFCC is a criminal investigation organization in charge of investigating financial crimes involving politicians, economic saboteurs, and electoral fraudsters. EFCC's modus operandi is such that any suspect or accused must deposit all his money and other belongings with the exhibit section headed by Mr. Oripipe, a cashier who is expected to pay all cash receipts collected by him to the banking officer. The banking officer issues a receipt, a revenue receipt into the cashier. To the cashier. Mrs. Innocent, who is the resident auditor of, beg your pardon, Mrs. Innocent, who is the resident auditor in charge of the organization, conducted a physical cash survey and discovered that the total amount on the duplicate receipt book with the banking officer is 4.550 million, which does not agree with the actual cash paid in. It was therefore suspected that the organization has been defrauded. The following information relates to deposits collected from January to December 2013, cash from Honorable Chalaka, cash from a container from with 5 suitcases, each containing 250,000, cash recovered from Anini, a criminal that raided the Faco Bank, cash sales of impounded lace, 5 boxes containing consumable items earlier disposed of for the sum of 16,000 was mistakenly kept in Mr. Ibuke's drawer and later discovered by the auditor. On thorough investigation, it was discovered that the banking officer was illegally removing the sum of 500 naira each from every 2 5 paid to the bank by the cashier. You are required to 1. Explain briefly types of fraud. 2. Explain the correct statement of deposits from detainees as it should be in Mr. Ipue's record and identify the shortfall due to negligence. Calculate the amount of cash lost by the government as a result of the fraud based on the auditor's finding. And as the chief accountant, state 3 measures you would put in place to reduce or eliminate this type of financial fraud. No thinking required, Abby. And in case you want to follow which past question, it is November 2014, question 3. So let me start. So we have, what's the name of the ministry? Let's just say Honorable Talaka. So we should explain briefly types of financial fraud. So types of financial frauds are: one, uh, aiding and abetting; two, stealing, right, and pilfering of money; three, we have fictitious recording of fictitious transaction; four is uh, embezzlement of public funds; and five is uh, unnecessary inflation. Are we on the same page? No.
Yes, yes.
Alright. Maybe it's because the class is being recorded. Next time, I will not record the class. Honestly. Alright. So the second thing we asked to do is what? To prepare the correct statement of deposit from detainees. So we have B, preparation of correct revenue statement. All figures noted in thousand, all figures noted in thousand. Right? So the first we have is that in our revenue sheet, they said there's cash from Honorable Talaka. So we have cash from Honorable Talaka, and that's 12,500, right?
Yes, yes.
The second thing we have is cash from containers from 5 suitcases, each containing 250,000 each. So cash from 5 suitcases. So because the examiner says each is containing 250,000, so we have 250,000 times 5. And that's how much? That's one. Sorry. Let me write all figures in full. Let me just do all figures in full. Yeah. Because the up one is supposed to be 12.5, but I'm denoting all figures in thousand. Right? Good. So we have cash recovered from Anini, a criminal. Cash recovered. How much is cash recovered from Anini? 4 million. right? Then we have cash sales of impounded lace. We have 425,000, right? And we're told that 5 boxes containing consumable items earlier disposed of for the sum of 16,000 was kept in Mr. Oripupe's drawer and was later discovered by the auditor. So we have boxes of consumables. That's how much? 16,000.
16,000.
Right? So it means that the total amount that we should find in the bank account is this, right? 5,703,500. Are we on the same page?
Yes.
Then
Yes, sir.
then we have duplicated receipts. We were told that there were duplicated receipts booked with the banking officer, right? So we have duplicated receipts, and that's how much? 455,000 like this, Abi. And that gives us the shortage in collection. The 5,703 minus 4.55 million. And that gives us 1,153,500. Any question, please?
No.
Okay, good. So since there's no question, that will be the end of the B part. So the C part is now calculate the amount of cash lost. How much do they actually lost? The C part. Calculation of amount lost by the government. Right? So we have this, we have this, right? First, we need to put in the cash shortage. In a class of close to 100 people, only 12 people came to this class. Mm. So cash shortage from collections is how much? We have 1,153,500, right? Then we were told
Yes.
that on thorough investigation, it was discovered that the officer was illegally removing the sum of 500 from every 2,500 collected, Abi. So amount stolen by the cash officer. Then we have for every 2,500, right? He's stealing 500. So we have 500 divided by 2,500, right? Times the total amount he disclosed that he collected was 4.55 million, Abi. That gives us how much? 500 over 2,500 times 4,550, and that's 10,000, Abi. right?
Yes. Right.
Total amount lost will then be 153,500 plus, and that will be the end of a 20 marks question. Any question, please?
Yeah, please. Can you explain why you deducted the duplicated receipts?
Now, the idea is that the amount that was supposed to be recorded was 5 million, right? But we discovered that there were some fraction that he already duplicated, right? Although it was recorded in that same revenue statement. The revenue he recorded was 2 point, hold on. The revenue recorded was 4.550 million, right? That was the actual amount he disclosed that he received, right? So,
Yes.
but the amount he was supposed to receive is 570,350. So to now determine how much is remaining for him to disclose, I will deduct what he has already disclosed from what he's supposed to disclose. So that's the rationale behind it.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So the C part is asking me, or the D part, sorry, is state three measures put in place to reduce fraud, right? So these are just talking about the basics of internal control system, and they include one, segregation of duties, right? Segregation of duties. So one person should not do everything. He should report to somebody else, right? Number next would be that it would need us, or it would need to properly check, that spot check, proper check by the internal audit, right? The third thing you will need to do is there would need for periodic audit, or continuous audit. And the fourth thing they should do is job rotation. Each person should not keep on doing same thing. And then number five should be that there should be proper books of account and continuous setup of bank reconciliation. Any question, please? Sorry. I go soon finish. Like around 10:30. Any question, please?
No.
Okay, good. In the absence of any other question, I was thinking I was going to solve the third part of the question, but it doesn't look like you're interested really in the class, really. So let's just.
Interested.
You're not interested now. So I'm shouting three times before you answer once. When scripture say once have I spoken, twice have I heard. But me, I will speak 4 times, you hear once.
Though sometimes when you ask us to call figures, we are not even seeing it. So it takes time. That's just it.
You're not seeing what? Is it that you're not seeing the figures, or you're not seeing
No, like it takes time to locate it because we have to zoom in and all. So we can't answer immediately. That's just it.
Okay.
And the screen is too tiny for those that are using their laptop. It's too the
Anyway,
writers are
no
too small.
worries. There's no problem. We'll be fine. But that's basically it. So you're at your leisure, you can just solve the fifth, I mean, this question on your own. And anytime you see me, you can actually show me if so I can say what you do is right or wrong, basically. But that the D part is just the basics of all the questions that you need to solve, right? So let's quickly. So with this, we are through with the accounting for loss of fund and I mean bank constitution statements and accounting for fraud that we have in this. So let's quickly go to accounting entries in the case where there is loss of fund. Number one is where there is loss in cash, you debit the non-personal advance account and credit the cash account. In case there is fraudulent payment or overpayment made and is covered within the current financial year, you debit the non-personal advance account and credit the relevant sub-head account. In the case where there is fraudulent or overpayment in previous financial year, charged to CRF or development fund, you debit the non-personal advance account and credit the relevant sub-head. In the case where there is fraudulent payment or overpayment made in previous financial year, charged against the public fund other than CRF or development fund, then you debit the non-personal advance account and credit the account originally debited. And in the case where there is abandonment of the recovery of an amount or advance charged initially, you debit the loss of fund account and then credit the non-personal advance account. In the case where there's a recovery of an amount that was earlier written off to non-personal advance account, you debit the cash or bank account and credit non-personal advance account. But where there is overpayment not involving fraud made in a previous financial year, there will be no adjustment. And in the case where there is abandonment of recovery of an advance, basically there will be no adjustment. And when there is abandonment of recovery of an unpaid revenue, then there will be no adjustment. Any question, please? Any question, please?
No, go ahead.
So, in the absence of questions, let me quickly run through IPSAS 12. The provisions of IPSAS 12 is same with the provision of IS 2, right? So, basically, the standard actually deal with the valuation of store. And we said that the valuation of store should be done using two bases. One, you'll be either using the first in, first out approach or the weighted average approach. And I'm sure everybody in this class should be able to do valuation using the first in, first out approach or the valuation approach. It is also important for us to note that inventory should be recognized at lower of cost and net realizable value. And the difference between the cost and net realizable value should be written off in the statement of profit or loss. And in the case of public sector, we say it should be written off the statement of financial performance. Are we on the same page?
Yes.
So what are the scope of the standard? The assets that is contained in inventories are one, assets held for sale in the ordinary course of production or the course of business, sorry. Assets held for further processing of production for such sale or distribution.
Please,
Assets
can
held,
you enlarge your screen? It's not. It's very, very tiny. We can't see it clearly.
okay, I'm not calculating anything here, so I can just quickly budget. So assets held in the production of for such sale or distribution, Number three, assets to be consumed in the production of goods or services for sale. Assets held for sale in the ordinary course of business. It is important for us to note that this standard does not contain assets held for sale and discontinued operation, which is covered under IFRS 5. Inventory also include goods purchased for resale, such as merchandise purchased by a retailer and held for resale, or land and other properties held for sale. Inventories also encompass finished goods produced or work in progress being produced and include materials and supplies awaiting use in the production process. So what are the standards that are outside the scope of our IPSAS 12? Number one, work in progress arising under construction contract, and that is IPSAS 11. Number two is financial instruments. Number three is biological assets relating to agricultural activity and agricultural produce at the point of harvest. And then we have work in progress that are held to provide for in the nominal consideration directly in return from the recipient, right? And I've said that if inventory should be measured at lower of cost and net realizable value. So how do we determine the cost of inventory? The cost of inventory shall be all costs incurred to bring the assets to its intended use. That is, we are saying that it should be the purchase price plus import duties plus taxes minus any discount or rebate, that's trade discount or rebate, and add all other costs of conversion. Are we on the same page?
Yes, we are.
So what are the items that should not be included in the cost of inventory? Number one is we have abnormal amounts of wasted materials, labor, or other production costs. We have the storage costs, and we have the admin overhead and other selling costs. So those are the exceptions from the standard, or sorry, exceptions from the cost. Are we on the same page?
Yes.
So on what ground should you recognize inventory as an expense? Number one is when inventories are sold, that is, then you recognize it as cost of sales, right? Number two is if there's no related inventory, or sorry, if there's no related revenue, and in that case, the expense is recognized when the goods are distributed or related services are provided. And also the third thing is the amount of inventory written off as a result of decrease in the valuation of inventory. All right? Decrease in the valuation of inventory. What is then the disclosure requirement? Number one is the accounting policies adopted in the measuring of inventories and the cost formula used. Two is the total carrying amount of inventories. Three is the carrying amount of inventories carried at fair value less cost to sale. Four is the amount of any reversal of any written down that is recognized in the statement of financial performance in the period. Five is the circumstances of events that leads to the reversal of a written down inventory. The carrying amount of inventories pledged as securities for liabilities, and the cost of inventories recognized as an expense during the period. What is the accounting entry? The accounting entry shall be one, in the case of bought-in inventory, where you buy it on credit, you debit inventory and credit accounts payables. And if you buy it in cash, you debit inventory and credit bank account. But where you buy it in cash and then you make payment later on, at the point at which you make payment, you debit accounts payables and then credit bank account. When you issue inventory, you debit the relevant expense head and then you credit inventory stock account. And when inventories are created internally, You debit inventory stock account and credit account payable material. Account payables account. And when payment is made, you debit your account payables account and credit your cash or bank payment account. And upon issuance of inventory for conversion, you debit your work in progress and credit inventory account. Don't worry, in our next class, you will understand this accounting entry basically, because I want to treat it alongside PPE. So I'll bring up a question that will treat everything. Then upon full conversion of the inventory, you debit the finished goods services account and credit work in progress account. And upon issuance or consumption, you debit the relevant expense account and credit the inventory stock account. Are we still on the same page?
Yes.
Any question, please?
No.
In the absence of question or questions for tonight, so permit me to draw the curtain for this class. So in the next class, I'll be looking at accounting for government, business, enterprise. During that time, I will share the link with you, and then we'll continue from there in the next class. Any question? Any question, please? Okay.
Question.
All right. So that's all the questions. Thank you for coming tonight. God bless you. Do have a good night rest.
Thank you.